She founded Gun Sense Vermont as a means to solve a polarizing topic within our state. If you've ever sent a postcard to someone facing hate as part of the local Love Brigade, that system of kindness was created by Braden. Please join me in welcoming author Braden.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for turning down the fan because I thought my voice is quieter than hers. There's no way you'll hear anything I say. So first off, I want to tell you something that's important to know about me as an author, and that's that for the first 3 years of my life, I was pretty certain about a few things. And one of them was that there was just some stuff I couldn't do. And at the top of that list was writing. So when I was little, slightly larger, an adult, when I thought about writing a story, even a short story, even a tiny 3-sentence story, I would have felt panicked. And part of that is because when I looked around at the other kids in my class, I was sure that they were better than me. Most of them lived in nicer houses than I did. Most of them had 2 parents. And then there was me. Also, I was a cat. So I'd look at them raising their hands, and I think, well, their thoughts are important. My thoughts aren't important. And if you don't think your thoughts are important, you're not going to write them down. You're definitely not going to raise your hand. And so I didn't write anything down. And for the record, I wasn't actually a cat, because if I had been a cat, I would have had much higher self-esteem. So here's an actual picture of me when I was just starting 7th grade. My most hated picture of all time. You see it? The fear behind those eyes, I was scared of so much. I was scared of being made fun of. I was scared of making mistakes and being laughed at. And when I look back, I wasn't even really bullied that much. I was just so worried it could happen at any moment that I boxed myself in. We can feel so helpless as kids and as grown-ups. There's so much in our lives that we don't control, and it often feels like that's not going to change anytime soon. But there are things we can control, powers that are easy for us to forget we have. I've written 4 books now, and all of them are books that I needed when I was a kid. Because there was 4 important things that were missing when that 7th grade yearbook picture was taken. And once I discovered them, everything started to change. The power of my own inner strength. The power of connection. The power to ask questions. And the power to live fully. So the benefits of being an octopus is really about the inner strength that's in each of us, whether we know it or not. Those should probably look more like this. So luckily, when I was in 7th grade, I had this revelation about my inner strength, mainly that it existed. And what triggered this fabulous, life-changing aha moment was, I need a drum roll, please. Thanks, teachers. A book. This is Homecoming by Cynthia Voigt, and it's about 4 kids. The oldest one's Dicey, she's 12, and when the book opened, well, it's just the mom and the kids. The dad abandoned the family a long time ago. So when the book opens, the kids are in the shopping mall parking lot waiting for their mom to come back, and waiting, and waiting, and waiting, and eventually Dicey realizes that the mom isn't coming back, that their mom just abandoned them too. So the book is about these kids all on their own trying to get from where they are to the other side of the state where their mom lives. And reading it, I thought, oh my gosh, if they can deal with that, I should be able to deal with my own stuff. And looking back, I think one of the most important parts of that book was that it blew open my understanding of what it means to be a hero. So often in our culture, when we call people heroes, they've accomplished big things, ideally while surrounded by many adoring fans. But in reality, a hero is simply someone trying to get past the obstacles in their path, even if they're doing it quietly, even if they have 0 adoring fans, even if the people around them are judging them or bullying them. Those people are real heroes. So the benefits of being an octopus is about Zoe. And when she gets home from school, she's got a lot to juggle because it's on her to take care of her younger siblings while her mom works at the local pizza restaurant. She feels like they're in a good place right now because her mom's boyfriend has this nice neat trailer, and she's like, okay, we just have to not screw this up. But she's trying to keep these 3 little kids from making a mess because he likes the trailer really neat. And her mom's boyfriend's dad basically lives in the recliner in the middle of the living area, and he has quite a temper. So she's trying to keep these little kids neat and quiet. So it's a lot. So by the time she gets on the bus the next morning, she has not done her homework. She's not even had time to think about school. And it doesn't help that their washing machine is broken, and so when she gets on the bus, her clothes kind of smell. And there's kids who judge her every day because of that. So Zoe loves octopuses Because not only do they have all the extra arms to juggle all the extra things, but they also have incredible camouflage at school, abilities. Because at school, Zoe wants to be as invisible as possible. But there's this one teacher who sees her just like that. And is like, you know what? You remind me of who I was when I was your age. And what I needed more than anything else was to learn how to get other people to take me serious. So I'm pulling you out of homework club and I'm putting you in the debate club because you need to learn how to speak up. So the book is about Zoe recognizing this inner strength she has inside her and saying the hard things she needs to say. So just based, even if you have not read any part of the book, based on that little bit I just explained, raise your hand if you feel like you can see some of Zoe's strengths. Right? Raise your hand if you feel like she's responsible. Right, super responsible! All right, now put your hands down. Do you think most of the teachers and most of the students at her school see her as responsible? They see her as a kid who smells, who doesn't do her homework. We always have to remember that what we see at school is just a fraction of the whole story, just a tiny bit of what someone's actually going through. We always have to be thinking about what's under the surface. So for Zoe, what's going on right under the surface for her? What's one obstacle that you can already tell she's having to face? Well, I'm going to make you raise your hand.
No time to study for herself.
Right, there's no time for herself to do anything that she needs to do as a 12-year-old, right? And so she's having to be an adult. The thing is, we all have strengths, and we all have obstacles. And sometimes it's actually because we have obstacles that we end up developing a whole another set of strengths that we would never have otherwise. So, you know how I was so worried about being bullied when I was a kid. As an adult, I did get bullied. And there had been a school shooting in the town where my mom and stepfather lived, and I thought, that is like, we can't expect that we're just going to do nothing, right? Like, we're going to do something so that kids don't have to keep doing lockdown drills and they're doing the thing and we're not doing anything. And so I started asking, like, why can't we find common ground on this issue? And that meant in Vermont that the issue of guns, very controversial, polarizing issue, just looking for the common ground meant that suddenly I was getting bullied all the time, in person, online, by people all over the country. And the main message I kept hearing again and again and again was, you have no right to be saying what you think. And the bullying kept ratcheting up and getting more and more intense. At one point they mentioned my kids. I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And so I took a step back and I thought, okay, if I stop talking about this, they're going to leave me alone probably. But the next time someone just tries to bring up this issue for discussion, they're going to try to bully that person into silence too. And I did not want to let the bullies win. So it was actually the bullies who taught me I was way stronger than I knew and way more stubborn. And 5 years later, for the first time ever, Vermont passed major common ground gun legislation. Now, I'm a different person now than I was before all that bullying. I know that I have the confidence to say what I think, even if not everyone's going to agree with me, that I can do hard things and come through to the other side. But that's only because I knew to try to tap into my inner strength. I knew that I couldn't let myself get swept away by the force of their waves, believing them that their opinion belonged and my opinion didn't. But to do that, I had to dig deep. And I'm never going back to the person I was before. Facing our obstacles is how we evolve as people. And it's not just people who evolve this way. This is the quote that begins the book. The history of the octopus illustrates the brain's ability to evolve. As they lost their ancestors' protective shells, they were forced to become more intelligent. So why would an octopus need to be more intelligent if it doesn't have a shell? What do you think?
Because it's squishy.
He's squishy, yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be able to escape. And so, check out this octopus. So, not only can they change their skin's color instantly, but the texture too to match whatever is around it. And then this octopus, it doesn't need to be born with a home. It's resourceful. It can create a house out of all sorts of things, like a can of soup. Yes, so there was this animal research center that kept waking up every morning to find fewer fish in one of their tanks. They couldn't figure out what was going on because there was no predators nearby. So they set up a video camera, and it turned out that an octopus was climbing out of its tank leaving that room, going down the hall, climbing into the tank with the fish, having a midnight snack, and then going back down the hall and getting back into its own tank before morning each night. So like that octopus had a mental map to know where the snacks were kept. So octopuses have up to 2,000 suckers on their 8 tentacles, and each sucker has as many taste buds as a human tongue. So imagine what our lives would be like if we were covered head to toe in tongues. For an octopus, it means that if you meet one, and it's an extroverted one that wants to shake your hand, it can actually wrap its tentacles around your arm, and it can taste the chemical makeup of your body. Like it can tell what medicine you've had in the last 72 hours. Obstacles don't have to keep us down. Obstacles can help us rise to a whole new level. So, I want you to promise me that the next time you think of an octopus, you're going to use it as a reminder that you yourself have this inner strength inside you that's just waiting to come out, even if you've never seen it before, even if you don't think you have any strengths. I want you to promise me that you'll be on the lookout for it so that when you need it, you're ready to open that door to your inner strength and let it shine. So, we are going to take the official Team Octopus pledge together. It will make you official members of Team Octopus, joining over 100,000 students across this country. So, gonna raise your 8 tentacles in pledge form, and repeat after me, please. I promise.
I promise
to use the octopus
to use the octopus
as a reminder of my own inner strength.
as my own inner strength.
Excellent. You're now official members of Team Octopus. Congratulations. So, this is possible to do on your own. Remind yourself that you have inner strength channel to face whatever obstacles in your path. It's possible, but it's much harder to do it if you feel like you're the only one having to face an obstacle. And this brings us to another power you have, the power of connection. So I started writing Flight of the Puffin, my second book, at a time when there was a lot of people in our country, leaders even, who were trying to divide one group of people from another. And I just spent a lot of time going around to different places, talking about the benefits of being an octopus with kids. And I had been at places that should have been very different from each other. You know, I was in rural areas and in cities, I was in the coasts of the country, I was in the heartland, I was in suburbs. And yeah, there were some superficial differences. But as soon as you actually start talking to people, it was so clear that at the level of the heart, there was so much connecting us all. And I knew that what was on the surface was not the same as what was underneath. And what people were willing to show others was not the whole story. And I knew that at every school I went to, there would be someone who felt like they were the only one having to deal with what they were dealing with. Even though from my perspective, I was seeing kid after kid after kid in the same tough position. Because the thing is, if we think about when people try to get us to doubt ourselves, it often invades our thoughts, making us feel disconnected from ourselves, from others, completely adrift. And if we feel alone with a problem, it makes that problem seem all the more impossible to deal with. But what if, when people are trying to get us to doubt ourselves, we think about all the people going through something similar, whether we can see them or not, whether we've ever met them or not. What would happen if we let ourselves feel that support and know we're not alone? So that's the essential question I'm asking in Flight of the Puffin. It's about 4 kids that are very different from each other on the surface. They live in different parts of the country, but they're also all feeling alone in some way. And they also feel like they're not quite enough in some way. And it's about this one random act of kindness and the ripple effects that go out and out from there that end up connecting these kids in ways that they're not expecting. And that was based on an actual experience that I had that was alluded to in the introduction, where it was around that same time, lots of hate speech and hateful acts, and I felt like, okay, this is horrible, but I don't know what to do about it. Like, I'm just one person, but I know that there has to be other people who feel the same way. So I started asking people, what do you think we can do? What do you think we can do? And eventually someone said, what about postcards? And I thought, ooh, that's a good idea. And so later that day, I found out that the Islamic Society of Vermont had gotten hate mail. And I thought, well, I know one thing I can do. So I took an index card, covered it in hearts, and I mailed it to them. I figured if they could get hate mail from a stranger, they could get love mail from a stranger just as easily. And I convinced my family to send their own postcards, and there's my daughter with hers. And I convinced other people to send postcards, and they did. And the Islamic Society of Vermont ended up getting over 500 postcards covered in hearts. And there's a video of the imam holding this huge stack of postcards, and what he says is, If the person who sent that hateful message knew that this was going to be the response, I don't think they would have sent it. And so that sort of sparked this understanding of just because you have not met someone does not mean you can't impact them for the better. And I set up a Google spreadsheet to keep track of the addresses that needed love. We set up a Facebook group called the Local Love Brigade. And one after another, people would write to us about someone that needed love, and we would respond. We sent postcards to synagogues and mosques facing graffiti and bomb threats. We sent them to refugees arriving in a nearby town to welcome them. We sent them to kids who had been bullied. We sent postcard after postcard after postcard. Anytime we heard of someone trying to send the message that someone should feel ashamed of who they are, we were there pushing back, telling them that they were loved. Now, you don't necessarily always see the way you impact others, especially not if it's through a postcard that has no return address. But sometimes you hear back. Do you ready to see my postcard?
It was the hard no.
That's so nice. Thank you for making postcards. So there was this girl in Los Angeles. Her dad was driving her to high school, and they were suddenly stopped by immigration authorities, and he was taken away and arrested. And she filmed the whole thing through tears. And so we sent postcards to her family via her high school. And a few months after that, I got a random message, and it's from the principal of that school. And he tells me how powerful it is to get those messages of support. And also that it's a really big deal to go to college where they live. And so the kids who pledged to go to college, they take them on this massive field trip to a different part of the country. And they were coming to the Northeast, and could they come to my little town of Brattleboro, Vermont to make love postcards with us? And I was like, oh yes! And so then, like a few months after that, they piled out of vans, and it was incredible to sit alongside them writing messages of support for other strangers.
Wow.
And afterwards, we took this picture, and then we started to get back into the vans, and this one girl came up to me, and she said, that was my uncle who was taken by immigration. And I am so worried he's not going to be free in time to see me graduate from high school. And we hugged, and we both cried, and in that moment, it did not matter that we were complete strangers from completely different parts of the country who had completely different lives. In that moment, we were completely connected. And so I realized, looking back, that's the moment when Flight of the Falcon was born. So remembering that there's a whole world of people outside the boundaries of your daily life, especially when you feel like everyone around you is judging you, like if you're in middle school, for example, it's a huge perspective shift. And so for me, I was able to get that perspective shift when I was in 8th grade, going to the youth group in my church, because it was different from my middle school, and everyone was nice, and we stand on our chairs to sing grace, and we ate lots of pasta every Wednesday night, and we planned community service projects. I loved it. And then a new kid was elected as president of the youth group, and he decided everyone should have to sign a pledge form saying they believed in God. And I did not know if I did. And so yet again, I was back here. Oh, no! And so this is what my third book, Opinions and Impossibilities, is about. What do you do when you're not sure you believe what you're supposed to believe? Or what do you do when you have big questions about what you're supposed to believe? And how do you ask those questions when you have the sense that you're not supposed to be questioning these things? So the power of a question for me was a game changer in middle school, in that my 7th grade geography teacher was by far my favorite teacher, and by far my weirdest teacher. They often go hand in hand. So the first day of school, he stood at the front of the room, silent, I swear, for minutes. And then he said, Thursday. Thursday has an R in it. Wear red on Thursday. What? And so we had normal school supplies to get for school, but in his class there was something we were told to bring that I'd never been told to bring to school before. It was, oh, that's my classroom. No, it's someone else's classroom. It was a red pen. Adults use red pens. Teachers use red pens. Students definitely did not use red pens. But here I was being told that I had to bring one to school, and that on Thursdays I had to use it to write questions. He called it red writing, and the questions could be about absolutely anything, not just about geography. And looking back, I think that the weekly practice of using the color of authority to write my own personal questions sheet me more than anything else in middle school. So the thing about questions is that it gives us power. And if you think of any obstacle in your life, we don't like thinking about the obstacles because we don't like thinking about problems often, but if you're courageous enough to sort of look the obstacle head on and ask questions about it to try to understand it, it can take some of that power from that obstacle and give it to you. So you can ask questions like, what's this obstacle keeping me from? Why is it there? Has it always been there? And if it hasn't, what changed? And can that change again? You can ask powerful questions of yourself like, what am I going to do about this obstacle? Can I go over it? Can I go around it? Is there some way I should change myself so I can fit through it? Should I try to dig down under its foundation and blow it up from below? What is at its foundation? Do I even have to go in this direction? Should I just go in a completely different direction instead? Is there a way I can face just a tiny little piece of this obstacle at a time? We can't often control the obstacles in our path, but what we can control is how we respond. So, my newest book, Into the Rapids, the main character Addie has her share of obstacles, and when she was a baby, her dad died in a flash flood accident, and her mom has raised her to really survive. Like, they are really into being resilient women in the remote town of Vermont that they live in and not needing anyone else. And then this flood comes along, knocks out the bridge to their town, and they can't leave. And Addie has been planning on going to survival camp, which is going to show that both she is a strong, successful girl and that her mom is a really successful mom, but she does so well at the survival camp where her dad also went. But now she has to figure out a different way of going about things because there's no way to get to survival camp the normal way. So there's this next door neighbor boy who she's never liked because he's the reason she does not have friends in this town. But they both keep ending up at the same place to try to get Wi-Fi in the woods. And so the things that develop because of that sort of push her outside her comfort zone. And so this is based on, so Addie's the main character, Caleb is the next door neighbor, and he has his own share of obstacles, and that he, unlike Addie, is connected to everyone in town. He knows everyone, but that means that when something bad happens to someone, he really feels it. And there's an old man who seems to have been swept away by the floodwaters, and he's so worried that he might be dead. And he's like, he might be dead, and I know him, and someday I am gonna die, and oh my God, that's terrifying. And he starts to have panic attacks. And so Addie actually can help him because she has a lot of experience helping her mom with panic attacks. And so the two of them both have something that the other one needs. And Caleb also really latches on to this animal, the immortal jellyfish, which is, if you haven't heard of it, it's about the size of your fingernail, and it lives off the coast of Japan. And if it gets old or runs out of food or gets injured, it can go back to its larva state and regrow an infinite number of times. So scientists are actually studying its genome to figure out, well, what creates that immortality switch that it has. So Caleb is like, we gotta figure this out. So this jellyfish, based on true things, other parts of this book are also based on real life events, in that I went to survival camp like Addie did. Also floods in Vermont, wiping out bridges, very real. So I went to survival camp in Vermont. That is me with the excellent cobra tattoo. It rained the whole time. Rain. And so one of the tests that both Addie is preparing for and that I had to prepare for is called a wet day fire test. And what happens is you bring a log with you that you've hopefully selected very well, and then it gets soaked in a bucket of water for 30 minutes. And then the test begins, and you have to chop up the log, build a fire with it, light the fire, get the fire big enough and hot enough to boil water over in 20 minutes. So, who would like to try to guess my wet day fire time? If you guess it, you'll get a sticker. All right, so strategically, don't guess over 20 minutes, just this failure if it's beyond 20 minutes. So one who's keeping time after that. So who would like to guess? Yes.
19?
19 minutes.
18.
18 minutes.
19 minutes and 37 seconds.
19 minutes and 37 seconds.
12.
12 minutes. Thank you for your confidence.
19's still pretty good.
Yeah, oh yeah, no. You wanna guess? 16 minutes. Oh, closest. 15 minutes. It's good because otherwise we're going to have time. So, the other part of this book that's very much based in real life is that this is a picture of me and my dad when I was a little baby. And a few months after this picture was taken, he died in a plane crash. And I was in the plane crash, my mom was in the plane crash, my mom saved my life. And growing up with that kind of experience, it shapes you, and it can shape you in different ways. Like, it can shape you the way it's shaping Addie and her mom, where it's like, we're gonna survive no matter what. We're like, gotta go in deep and tight and, just have tunnel vision to get what we need. Or, if you're given enough support, it can help you recognize that, you know what, this one life, we don't know how long we got on this earth. And we've got to live it up while we can. Like, this is our chance. These are our days. And we don't want to have any regrets. And so that idea of living fully is constantly in the back of my head. It's not constantly in the back of Addie's head to start with, but as she gets to know Caleb, she starts to realize that, you know what, she's surviving, but she's not living it. So trying to figure out how to branch out and start living, coming from survival mode, is what she's sort of tasked with. But for me, it really has been this, like, it's constant, always, like, it's big decisions, but it's also tiny decisions. I can be sitting around bored, and it's in the back of my head at all times. And I was actually sitting around bored on this couch 15 years ago, and I was bored in part because I had been a social studies teacher at BAMS. I stayed home with my first child. He would not sleep unless I was holding him. So I was stuck on this couch for hours at a time. Hours! And I started reading a bunch, which is great. This is before smartphones, so I probably would have just played a lot of Block or Duke or otherwise, but started reading a lot. And then I picked up this book. We're going to have another book-prompted, life-changing aha moment. This time the book was Blue Jay Dance by Louise Erdrich, which I picked up because she has a baby, and I had a baby. Who chose this book? There's this one random line in the book where she's talking about going through the woods to her writing studio with her baby, and I was like, oh, it's so lovely to be a writer. But then my automatic next thought was, what? Who remembers the main thought I had about writing for the first 30 years of my life? I can't, right? My exact thought, I remember specifically, was, well, writing is something I know I can't do. But I just want you to think about something that you know you can't do. And I want you to imagine that you're on a couch, no one to talk to, nothing to do for 3 hours. And at some point in that time, you ask yourself, if I was going to do that, how would I do it? And for me, the question was, if I was going to write something, what would I write? It's not like I had a whole story idea come to me, but it was like, well, maybe it could be this kind of setting. And then the next day, I was like, well, maybe it could be this kind of character. And then the next day was another little detail, and then another little detail. And you do that for 2 months, you start to have a story emerge, whether you like it or not. And I got this little netbook computer, and I had Baby and a certain netbook computer, and I started typing one-handed, which shows a certain level of desperation, because capital letters are like real stretch. And I thankfully had read Anne Lamott's book that said, basically, if your first draft is really, really bad, then you're doing it right. So I thought, well, I am doing this all right then. And so I kept going, and eventually I got to the end of this story, and I thought, oh my gosh, those people, I made them up. The things they did, I made that up. And it was such a feeling of power, even though I had not gotten off the couch. Even though the conditions in my life hadn't changed, I had changed. Because I drew on my inner strength, and because I connected to a book, and because I asked the question, this thing that I think is impossible, how would I do it? And because I was like, no regrets, baby, let's go for this. And so then, 15 years later, here we are. To be honest, though, the first 7 years of those 15 years were filled with 5 completely different manuscripts, all of which were rejected again and again, hundreds of times. But I kept going through the rejection because I drove my inner strength and because I connected to other writers who knew what an emotional roller coaster it is to put your heart out into the world and have it starved on, and then to do it again. And because I asked the question, what do I need to do to make myself a better writer? Like, what is the story that I am uniquely qualified to tell that the world needs? And because I was like, this is my one shot. And partly that's because when I had that, ooh, I love this, I feel so powerful moment at the very beginning, I Googled, how long does it take to become a writer? Or how long does it take to get published? And Google told me 7 years, and Google was absolutely accurate. So I was like, at the time I was like, okay, this baby will go to kindergarten in about 5. I'm hoping to have a second child. I have 7. This is my window. If I'm ever going to do this, it's now. Now or never. So now I'm here telling you that you have the power to be a hero who faces your obstacles, and that know that you're never alone, no matter how alone you might feel, and to ask the questions needed to help you get past whatever obstacles in your path, and to live this life you've been given as fully as you can. So now we have one more important piece. You're going to love this. Before we did the Team Activist pledge, but now it's time for the official Choose Your Power pledge. All right, so together we're going to recite, I promise to remember to use my power, and then you're going to decide which of these 4 is most personal to you. Like, you have all 4 of these, but which one do you have to remember that you have the most? Is it inner strength, or is it connection, or is it questions, or is it living fully? And then we're going to say it all at the same time. Okay? And we're going to stand up for this. All right, we can't repeat because, it won't work. All right, on the count of 3. Everyone know what they're going to say? There's no right answer. You could change your mind in like a
And
minute.
we're starting with I promise.
We're going to start with I promise. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I
promise to remember to use my power of activism.
I like that you all said it confidently. Yeah.
Did we touch all 4?
Maybe.
I wonder.
Sometimes it's like very everyone has chosen this, and it's like, wow, that everyone wants to use their inner strength. Everyone wants to live like